Hello and welcome to the next episode of Why We Do It, which today is with Kevin Morice. Kevin's got a very deep background in amateur sports in general, from very serious athletics in his early years, right the way through to a whole different variety of types of triathlons in more recent years. He's also a coach and been involved in all sorts of other things, which we talk about right the way through this episode. But Kevin's also very brave in this episode to talk about some of the challenges he's had in recent years with mental health. And I just want to let you know that when we get into that subject, the subject of suicide does come up. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on that before we go. But we talk about all sorts of other things. A lot of it's really good fun, including how many Garmin watches he's managed to get through in recent years. So hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks very much. Cheers. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Why We Do It, the stories behind the stories in amateur sports. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this time by Kevin Morice, who is a bit of a legend in the multi-sports international age group scene. Kevin, how are you? How's your weekend going?
Yeah, I'm good. Quite a good weekend. I think legend's a bit of a stretch, but I'll take it.
You're a legend in your own lunchtime. That's all that counts.
Yeah,
and you're well known. You're well known throughout the age.
Well known is probably fairer than
through the aquathlon and the cross try and various other things that you do now. We'll get to all of that, but
infamous might be a better term. But there we go.
Yeah, maybe something we can all strive to achieve. Infamy. So you avoided the question. How was your weekend? Because I know that there's more to it than you already said.
So mostly good. I had a small mountain bike crash yesterday, so I've got some bruises. I've got a bit of a sore shoulder, but I still managed to go out for my run this morning.
What kind of bike were you riding?
So I was out on the mountain bike. Actually, I just went to Fraserburgh for some shopping and then cycled back. And about halfway back, I thought I would do. So it's on the old railway line. Some of the old railway platforms are still there. So I rode up onto one of them and slipped off it. And at that point, I'm riding on someone's lawn, and I felt bad about that. So I tried to hop back onto the stones on the railway platform and didn't quite make it and toppled off and fell from what used to be the platform onto what used to be the railway line. So yeah.
Oh, ouch!
Bit of a bump. Got some bruises.
You're okay. You managed to run. More important, is the bike okay?
The bike is okay. I've got a puncture, but I don't think it's from that because I managed to ride another 20k on it and it was fine. But yeah, I've spotted it's got a flat this morning, so I'm not out riding it. So
right, okay. So cutting to the chase then. You and I talked before, and you recently did another podcast talking about similar things with Richard Conway on his established podcast called AMP, the Age Group Multi-Sports Podcast. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to that podcast that you did with him into the description below this, so that we don't necessarily have to go through the whole story. Richard talks predominantly to age group international multi-sport athletes, and I think you were number 126 or something that he's done, and he's up to 150 odd, something like that now. So predominantly talking about the details of people's journey into multi-sport and where they've come from and their races. So we won't go into too much of that because people can pick up the link to see that on that podcast. But I listened to it and I picked up a load of things to talk about, which I think come out of that, which are really, really interesting. But because some people here won't have heard that yet, can you just start by giving us a very quick overview, a few minutes of just talking through your story, childhood into athletics, into triathlon and multi-sports, just very quick overview, and that sets the context then for the other things we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So trying to condense that down. Went to Germany when I was 10. My parents were working out there. Did lots of sports out there, but primarily football. Came back to Scotland at 13. Found that football was very different. German football, even from junior level, is very much ticky-tacky, passing, tidy. And then Scottish football is playing in the snow, kicking each other. Did not enjoy that. Got out of football very quickly. And realized that if you were a member of a local sports club, you didn't have to wear school uniform. You could wear the sports club jumper. And I didn't like the school uniform jumper. So looked around the class, spotted the one I liked and decided I would try athletics. So I joined Murray Roadrunners. So that would have been age 13, 14. Started running with them then. Still, I'm a member of them. I think I'm now their longest serving, still competing member. They've got a couple of legacy members who are still on committees and still do some coaching, but I think I'm the oldest one that's still competing. Did athletics for a long time at quite a high level. I've got a Scottish title in my pocket for decathlon. I did every track and field event while I was a senior, everything from 100 meters right up to marathon, pole vault, discus. I've done them all. And again, at quite a high level, raced for Scotland and Scottish universities a couple of times. And basically got into my 30s and was no longer able to win races. And I didn't enjoy losing out to people who were half my age. And it wasn't really because I was getting worse at that point. I was not getting any better, but the guys coming through were managing to beat me, and that was
a bit younger, probably a bit
younger, fitter, able to train every day when I was needing days off. And yeah, having been at that high level to then suddenly be just slightly behind them, just falling down through the ranks, I wasn't enjoying that. So I decided that was a good time to retire. Didn't want to just sit around, eat cake, get fat. So I decided I would do something else. And already I had the running background, so it seemed simple enough to just buy a bike and do some swimming and move to triathlons just for fun.
You had to learn how to swim. I remember you talking to Richard about this. You hadn't done much swimming before this.
I could swim in terms of I'm not going to drown, but I couldn't race swim, and my front crawl was not good. My breaststroke is actually really good. I haven't, even having not trained it, it's competitive. But I hadn't really done much front crawl, so I had to learn that pretty much from scratch. Learned that, bought some bikes, probably too many bikes. And one day finished a race and someone behind me in a GB suit comes up and goes, "Yeah, do you realize I'm just back from racing an international and you've beaten me in the same age group?" And it sort of cascaded from there that I've got much too carried away with it. And I'm
you've
back
done the whole load.
racing.
So it was like 2018, 2019, you started the age group international.
So I think it's actually, I think it was earlier than that. I'd miscalculated when I was on Richard's podcast. I think it might have been 2017. Whenever Bratislava was the first one I went to. And that was back when it was still 10-year age groups.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tougher to get in. But yeah, I qualified for Bratislava. Told my then wife that I'd qualified for a race in Slovakia. She said, "No, we're not going to Eastern Europe. Not interested, not keen." So I had to look at the map, realized it's only half an hour away from Vienna. So I offered her a week in Vienna in trade for a 1 day to Bratislava to go and race. And she took that. We ended up doing 4 days in Vienna, and then we went to Bratislava for race day. And it was such a beautiful place. We stayed there for the rest of the week.
Right. Brilliant.
So yeah,
so
that was my first one.
How many international
first place I met
races?
Fergus as well. So,
Fergus. We're going to get him on here in due course. So yeah,
yes,
There's an element of all the kind of good friends that will get dragged in eventually. But how many international races between aquathlon and cross tri and any other types of multi-sports have you done now, do you think?
Oh, I think I'm probably in the 20s by now.
Okay.
I would have to go and check.
You do 2, sometimes 3 races in one trip.
Yeah, sometimes 3 in a week. The way they stack up the schedule, they have a multi-sport week where they do the 2 duathlons on the first weekend, then they do cross races Tuesday and Thursday, aquathon Friday, and then the aqua bike and middle distance on the weekend. So if I'm doing the cross races and the aquathon, I'm sometimes doing 3 and 4 days. Looks like 3 and 5 days next year. They've given me an extra rest day between the cross tri and the aquathon next year. They've gone Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think they've gone next year.
Okay. So you and I spoke before we started recording. I've got a list of things I want to talk about, and there's lots of stuff
Yeah.
on here. So
Yeah.
we need to keep kind of chung through this. But I want to go
Yeah.
back firstly because you just said something else, which I remembered from hearing you talk to Richard about, and that's the decathlon. Now,
Yeah.
I also started in athletics at school level and kind of provincial level. That was my kind of start in the whole thing, but it was mainly middle distance running. But I always wished I'd had the chance to do, and I was at an amazing school in South Africa where you could do so many different things, and athletics, you could just do all of the different events like you've done. But I never got a chance to do a quathlon. Sorry, quathlon. I never got a chance to do decathlon because we didn't have pole vault. And decathlon was about the only thing I never got the chance to do amongst many other things. But I'm absolutely fascinated that you did decathlon. How did you get
Yeah.
into decathlon? How did you get on with it? Was that one of your main competitive um, competitions in athletics?
Yeah. So towards the end, so I started with cross country, like most people do. You go along to a running club, you do some running, you do some cross countries, you then get put in a 1500 meters on the track, and I was quite good at that. And then I got put in an 800 meters on the track, and then what happened was the club I was in suddenly produced 8 really good middle distance runners, and I was number 8. So I wasn't getting in the team for the 800 or the 1500. So I'm like, well, I'll try the 400. Was up to about 5th or 6th, and then 200, 100. Great. They don't have the speed. I can take them on the faster races. I'll get selected for races if I do the fast stuff. So moved to 100, 200. Then joined a bigger team in Aberdeen when I went to university. Worked my way up to that. So I was getting selected for them to do 100 and 200 a lot. Made it into the team manager's position at Aberdeen. And then there's a bit of an onus when you get in the league, the Scottish League. Points are important. So having someone in every event is important. So I would do the 100, which was, easy enough. I can do that in a day, 200 in the afternoon, do a relay late. I've still got plenty left in the tank after that. So it's like, oh, well, we don't have a javelin thrower this week. Can you throw a javelin? Yeah, no problem. Can you, discus thrower hasn't turned up. Can you do, yeah, no problem. 5K runner's not here today. Yeah, that's fine. I'll joke around that. And so basically I did them all individually that way, up to hammer throwing. Hammer throwing I'm actually surprisingly good at, given that I weigh nearly nothing. And then, but quite often we would leave the pole vault empty. We would just accept none of the other teams have pole vaulters either. So let's just sacrifice the points. We're not really losing. But then it worked out that, we lost the league one year for not having pole vaulters. So the next year I learned to pole vault. And threw that in as well. But primarily I was doing 200s, 400s, 100 and both sets of hurdles if we were short.
I was about to say
I was
you
really
haven't mentioned hurdles. I was about to say you haven't mentioned hurdles yet, and you just did as I was about to say that. So 400 hurdles, that was a thing for you as well, wasn't it?
So that was my thing for a long time. So I went to the so I have over my career been selective in a tactical way. So I started racing 100, 200, but obviously a lot of people like to race the sprints, so they're quite tough. You can be a very good sprinter and still lose every week. But the hurdles are less popular. So if you're a good hurdler, you can be winning every week, and winning every year, and winning for 35 years in a row.
Which you have done. So let's just explain that, because I haven't heard you say that on the other podcast.
The North of Scotland Championships, they have a 400 hurdles, it's very weak, to be honest. A lot of years I've run it on my own. Some years I've been up against good guys and had to beat them. But I have held that title. I've held at least one of the hurdles titles every year since I was 20. I still try and go back every year. I missed this year because we were in Pamplona, but no one else raced it. So effectively, I'm still
you still get
the defending champion.
How do the age groups work? How do the age groups work in athletics? Is it the same 5-year blocks?
They're the same 5-year blocks, but they're on your birthday rather than end of the year. So I swap age groups halfway through a season. So I started at hurdling under 20, took that title, have won at least one of the hurdles every year since, until last year, where I didn't go, but neither did anyone else. So I'm still effectively reigning champion. But yeah, 400 hurdles again. I was quite good. I was a Scottish finalist. I would do that in the league quite regularly and come second and third behind guys who would then go on to run in the Commonwealth. So yeah.
And what's the highest level of competition you got to in athletics?
So I raced a couple of times internationally. Once for Scotland, 3 years in a row for Scottish universities. And again, that was primarily in the 200 meters, but also I again, we were taking a team. There were slots in the team, so I would do a 400 hurdles. So we took a trip to Antrim every year to race Ireland under 23s, Irish universities. It's a big, it's a once a year event they used to have and Scottish universities got invited and were part of that.
Okay. So listening to the other podcast, I picked up a theme that you were repeatedly mentioning.
I like winning.
You've already done it 2 or 3 times on this one, which is great because it leads in nicely. This is about why we do it. And you just said it there, you like winning. It's for you, the thread seems to be, can I win? Can I get on the podium? What kind of races? And actually, by the way, I'm very, very similar. So I understand that, but I'm curious, where do you think that comes from? What's that all about?
I think I'm very goal oriented. So I like to have a target. I like to hit my targets. I haven't got the poster on the wall, but we'll maybe come back around to that. Let's talk about 40 and 40 at some point.
40 and 40, right? On the
40 and 40, yeah. But yeah, I like to set a target and then hit a target, and sometimes that's times, sometimes that's places, sometimes it's just that guy beats me every week. I'm having him. That's
I think I've been on that list.
Actually, like we can roll into coaching from here because my coaching myself is I coach myself, and it is very much a case of setting number of miles per week as my starting point. I will do at the minute I'm trying to run 30 miles a week, cycle 45 a week, swim 3 a week, and that's the first point. Just the sheer volume, and then it gets smarter from there in terms of splitting it up and breaking up the intensity and what have you. But it's very much numbers oriented. I have a physics. I have 2 physics degrees. I'm very numbers oriented, and medals are nice. I've got a whole rack of them. We're doing this in Lorna's house rather than mine. So if we'd been doing it in my office, I've got a rack of medals behind me with literally hundreds.
Okay. So it's not just about winning or podiums or medals. It's for podium places. It's more of a broader goal.
It's goal oriented. Yeah. And at Worlds, that is very silly. I'm not good enough to be on a podium at the minute, but it's still on my list of. It's 49 for 49 this year. Finish top 15 at a World Championships and finish top 10 at Euros. So it doesn't have to be a podium, but it can be a
top 10.
A target top 10, top 15.
That's the driver. Yeah. And what is 40-40 and what is 49-49? You just said
so when I originally met Lorna, he was 43 and he had set herself a challenge to do 40 hills in the year he was 40, and he'd only done 36 or something, and then COVID had come, so she'd still not finished it when she was 41. She'd still not finished it when she was 42. I met her when she was 43, and she still had this ongoing, I want to do 40 hills in a year. So I went out with her, and basically I had adopted her goal, and I was like, yes, well, we're doing 43 hills now, let's go, and made her do her 40 hills in her 43rd year.
Whether she liked it or not, she was going to get dragged into it.
And that was it. Yeah, we were literally, there's Broad Hill in Aberdeen, just behind Pittodrie. It's a tiny little, it's not even a hill. I do hill reps on it, top to bottom. That's how short it is. But that was number 40 to get us over the line on the 20th of December. So we did that, and then there's
a Munro bagging map behind you. You're not talking about.
There's a Munro bagging map which we've not been crossing off. She's done a few, but it's whenever we do them together, we're going to cross them off, and none of them have been crossed off yet.
Right.
And that's been there a few.
Too busy doing other things. Yeah.
So she's done her 40, and then we were like, well, what will we do next year? And we couldn't come up with an idea, and I being goal oriented, got way out of hand and wrote all 40, it would have been 46 numbers my first year on a spreadsheet. And I wrote one for everything. So even starting from 0. So 0 is take 0 ambulance trips in a year. 46 was have a 46th birthday party.
Wow, okay.
I think 15 was read 15 books. 35 was watch 35 new films. And I wrote basically one for every single number all the way down. Swim was swim 1,000 meters in 17 minutes. 18 was run. 19 was run a 5K under 19 minutes. So yeah, I had this giant list, and then she saw that, wasn't quite as enthused about it as I was, but got into it, wrote her own list, which is different from mine. And then we wrote one for the dog as well the second year.
The dog has got a set of objectives.
The dog has a list. He's 12 now. He's got a list of his 12, which starts with learn one new trick and goes through play on 10 different beaches and take 3 boat trips. And yeah, he's got his list as well. And we just cross them off as we're doing. And we try and add new things every year and different things. And yeah.
I'm sure he's delighted by it. Okay, that's really interesting. And then I've got on my list much further down. I'm going to jump to it now because we've kind of halfway into this already. We've gone from the motivation of winning and actually more about goal settings to planning and spreadsheets. I heard you say on the other podcast that you've logged every kind of run, and probably more than just your runs by the sounds of it, on a spreadsheet ever.
Swim, cycle, weight session, yoga session since 2007, 2008, somewhere back there. It's massive. Every climbing session. I used to do a lot of rock climbing. They're all in there. So yeah, I've got everything. And it's quite simple, but it's very colorful and it's very pretty.
What's that for? What's that about? Why is that important to you?
So a lot of it's about accountability for myself, so I can see what I've done, what I've not done. But there is also a bit of, why am I not running so fast this year? What's gone wrong? What have I done differently from previous years? What have I done the same? I've run really fast. In 2023, I had a great year. And it was, what did I do differently in 2023 that I can apply again and try and fix? And
Strava, but it's also just now new digital platforms that can record almost everything you do. That's not good enough. You prefer to have your own version counting on.
So the only one that I think does it right is one called Smash Run.
Smash Run.
But they only do running. But it's excellent. It gives you more than my spreadsheet does in terms of detail breakdown.
And Strava doesn't, or Garmin doesn't.
Strava will if I pay for it, I think.
All right.
But why would I pay for it when I've got an amazing spreadsheet that's and they don't go back far enough. Even Smash Run has it started 2013, so there's 6 years of data at the start that's missing, which is when I first did a marathon and when I was doing a lot of track work, and lots of things like that are missing off it. So if I'm trying to plan, if I wanted to go and do, I'm never going to, but if I wanted to go and do an Ironman, I would need that older data of what did I have to do to get to a marathon, and none of the platforms are old enough to have that. Even Garmin itself changed when they went to Garmin Connect. It used to be a separate app that you had to download on your computer, and you stored everything locally. And then at some point they switched to an online platform where it's Garmin Connect and everything is stored there, but they don't even have the old data from the previous Garmin watches I had. So there's gaps in their data that are not gaps.
I'm reminded you're a walking encyclopedia of athletics and triathlon information and equipment and devices like the one, and also then online platforms like you're talking about. So there probably isn't a thing that's going on there that you don't know about. You're obviously a very, very intelligent person. So when it comes to the spreadsheet bit, and back to that for a second, are you doing anything more with that data apart from just looking at it and going, okay, I'm a bit quicker here and a bit quicker? I mean, what kind of how complex does your analysis of or analytics of that data get?
It could be better. Certainly, I've done a bit this year. So I raced through this year, got to the end of the season, then had a look at why have I run so terribly all year. And I basically the last 2 years I've not been entirely healthy, and the hospital can't find out why. But I think there is a part of that is I did make some training changes 2 years ago. So I ran my really fast year in 23. Then 24 was just a shocker. I didn't break 20 minutes for 5K all year. This year I don't think I've broken 21 all year. And you go to the doctor and tell them, look, I don't suddenly go from running 18 to running 21. And it wasn't immediate, but it's within 2-3 months you can see that there's this sudden massive drop off, and there's not a change in my training there's not a change in my diet, there's not a change in my lifestyle. So the doctors have been investigating. They haven't come to any sort of conclusion. They've tested everything, they've scanned everything, and they're basically at the point, well, you're nearly 50, you're probably old, you're not going to get better. And I'm like, no, that is not it. There is something fundamentally wrong here. But they're at the point where they've run out of things that they either can or are willing to test. So I've had to go back and basically looking at the data. I think there is a point where I do gradually fade off the volume, and I certainly fade off the intensity. And there's a bit of me that my cycling hasn't gotten worse, has got worse, but not as much. My swimming has got worse, but not as much. Maybe they're the age related, but my running has dropped off a cliff. And it's not, and I've got arthritis in my hip. It's not because of that. I get that treated. You want to talk about the injections at some point? Let's take that now.
You hit about 7 of the subjects I want to get to, and
I'm jumping around. Yeah,
I'm so interested in what you're saying at the time. I'm like, okay, we'll come back to that. So yeah.
Yeah. So the hip. Yeah. So when I was 39, I had a kidney stone. Went in, had a scan, had an X-ray, and they're like, "Yeah, you got a big kidney stone. Very good. We're hopeful that you'll pass it. So we'll give it a couple of weeks. If not, then we'll get in with the ultrasound. If that doesn't work, we're going fishing." Unfortunately, that broke up and went away. But as I got the X-ray for that, the radiologist, whichever one reads it, was reading it and said, "Yeah, you've got quite bad arthritis for 50." And I went, "Very good. I'm not quite 40," because she'd read my she'd read my date of birth and done the maths 10 years out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I've had problems on that side. ITB is very tight. I limp a bit on that side."
After a big hurdles, those 400 meter hurdles. Do you think this is?
So it's on my non-drive leg, so it shouldn't be.
But that's also drag. You've got to do the old loop round without drag leg. It's
the rotational one, but it shouldn't be worn. But it's the other kind of arthritis. So there's 2 kinds of arthritis. One is wear and overuse, and one is genetic. And I have the genetic one.
Okay.
So it's actually so they send me to the arthritis specialist. They pull out their standard little handout that they give to everyone, which says lose weight, eat well, do more exercise. And the doctor is literally handing me the leaflet going, "I know, but I have to hand you this leaflet because that's my job." But yeah, I'm like, I can't eat better. I can't exercise more.
So one of the themes on this is about just keeping going through difficulty and hardship. And so when you're in your late 30s and you're told that, how do you, and you got your goals and your motivations that we've already talked about, how do you find yourself keeping going? And maybe mental health is a subject that comes in here as well.
So basically, I was told I would need a hip replacement in 4 or 5 years. Let's go and see a super specialist. So I went to see the super specialist. I had to pay to see him privately, but I had really good health insurance at the time, so that was all covered. He has a look at the X-rays. He says there are 3 options. One is wait 5 years till it gets really bad. Then that'll justify a hip replacement. You're not bad enough to justify a hip replacement yet. Wait until you can't get out of bed, then we'll do it. 2 is wait 2 or 3 years. We'll do the Andy Murray operation where we go in, we polish it off, we stick a cap on it. It's still a new type of surgery. It's not common. It's difficult to do. It's not repeatable. It's a gamble. There's a 50-50 that you come out of it and it's brilliant. There's a 50-50 you come out of it and it's no better than it was when you went in, and we have to go and do a hip replacement anyway. Third option is we'll take you into the surgical theatre, fire X-rays at it live, And because basically what's happening is the ball rattles around in the socket. And what they're going to do is under a live x-ray, they will stick a needle in behind it and basically pump that area full of fluid so that basically instead of rattling around, it will now be full of fluid and it won't rattle. That fluid will gradually be reabsorbed into your system over a period of months. For some people, your system is really absorbent. It will last 6 weeks. For some people, that fluid will stay there for 18 months, gradually being soaked out. You'll get what you
what
get.
Is it? What are they injecting into you there?
It's a product called Duralone. It's basically hyaluronic acid. Same thing you get in your expensive L'Oreal moisturizing cream.
All right. Yeah,
so
not mine, but yeah, I'll ask.
No, yeah, yeah. And so I was like, yeah, well, the insurance is paying, so yeah, let's try the least damaging, the one that's yeah. And he says, yeah, every time the injection works, it will work slightly less well. But basically, every time it works, we're going to kick your hip replacement 5 years further down the line. Hip replacements are always improving. The resurfacing is always improving. The further you can put it down the line, the better chances you come out with a hip replacement that works. They'll go from 80% success to 90% success to a modern hip replacement. You should be walking out the same day and you should be running within 6 weeks. So yeah, that wasn't the case.
It's worked well for you for quite a while, hasn't it?
And yeah, so these injections, I go every year and a half. Having had them done privately and proved they're successful, I can now get them done on the NHS. The NHS don't normally gamble on them because they are a gamble. A lot of people only get 6 weeks out of them. Because I get such a good, often 18, 20 months out of them.
Wow.
Before it deteriorates back down to the level it was, they're quite happy to do me on the NHS. And basically now I go in every year at the start of the season and get it redone. And they make a huge difference.
You said elsewhere that you can see the results in your data.
Yeah, there's basically a drop in the run times. Within 6 weeks, I can take a minute off my 5K without changing my training plan. If I change my training plan, and because I can ramp up the intensity when it's not sore, I can take about a minute and a half off. It's better than the Magic Qs, and I think the Magic Qs are worth a minute as well. So yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned before when we were chatting about mental health's been something that you've had to think about and work through. I mean, is it linked to any of that, or is it separate? Or...
Yeah. So athletics. When I left athletics, and the competition level wasn't there, I didn't cope well with that. I didn't cope well with losing the competitiveness. I didn't cope well with. Yeah, I had depression for a couple of years. I went through a cycle of the GP solution, which is to give you various different types of antidepressants. I apparently have massive overreactions to many of them. One of them kept me awake for 3 days straight. The next one put me to sleep for 2 days straight. I did end up on a very low dose of sertraline, which is quite a common one, but that very quickly stopped being effective. And their solution then is to just ramp up the dosage till it becomes effective again. But it is addictive, and getting off it is harder than getting on it.
How old were you?
So that would have been around the same time, late 30s, early 40s. So,
okay.
Yeah. I had a couple of relationships break down in that time, which again didn't help. I basically lost my entire friends group moving from athletics, because basically everyone I knew was athletics. I was very committed to that. I had done 10 years at university, so I'd been there from 18 to 28. So I'd been leaving university in my late 20s. All those people had moved away. So I basically was, depressed, lonely, had a couple of bad breakups, had bad hip, didn't have the things that I'd used as my touchstones for socializing, changed jobs from a job where I'd had a good social group to a job where I did not have a social group. A lot of things went wrong at the same time. The GP solution in the UK is to try and medicate you out of it. That is not, for me, a successful solution. It may work for others, didn't work for me. I eventually made 2 suicide attempts that then jumped me far enough up the list to get counselling on the NHS. And that was, basically saved my life. It's probably a good time to talk about the dog as well.
Okay.
One of the nights when so having made my 2 attempts, I set up for a third. My second attempt went wrong because I took too many pills in too much of a hurry, and vomited them all back up. And a week later, I had planned to do it again, but I literally had the drugs set out in order, starting with the antiemetics to make sure that I wouldn't be sick. So I was in the process of that. My sister came round just out of sheer coincidence to just check how I was doing. Realized I was not in a good place, and basically left her puppy with me for the night. My voice is going to crack a bit here. I'm going to get a bit emotional about him. So Dexter, he was left with me, and basically I shut him in the kitchen so that I could carry on. And he was scratching away at the door, and he was basically being a nuisance. And so I had to let him out of the kitchen because he was just annoying me too much that I couldn't concentrate on what I wanted to do. And he basically just annoyed the hell out of me all evening until bedtime, and distracted me from what I was doing. Got up in the morning, had to take him for a walk, had to take him out to pee, all that sort of stuff. And basically he was there for a few days, and that was enough he was such a nuisance for the time he was there. Obviously he didn't realize he was being a nuisance. He thought he was just having a great time.
He was just doing his job.
But he was enough of a distraction. And when my sister came to pick him up, she spotted all the pills and took them away. So basically the stupid little dog saved my life. Was then my best friend for a decade.
So that's Dexter. So you talk about a dog and the objectives for your dog. Is that a different dog? Same dog?
Yeah. So now I've having met Lorna, I now have my new best friend, Sleoch, who's just out of shot. He's actually being very well behaved and having a snooze now. But yeah, Dexter turned into my running buddy. We did a lot of running together. He would, whenever my sister was away, he would come to me for holidays. Whenever I was feeling crap, I could just go and borrow him for a day and have him. And he made a huge difference and
it's amazing.
Saved my life. And then
there's so many things in there that I was not expecting. So wow, that's amazing to hear you talk about that as bravely as you have done. The pet thing is absolutely fascinating. I'm sure my wife, Rona, is won't mind me saying that she lost her sister and her mother. Her father passed away when she was very young. She was left with a mother and a sister. They both passed away about 10 years ago now, just over 10 years ago, within 9 months of each other. The sister in particular, unexpectedly, and the mum kind of was very healthy and unexpectedly, so quite a shock. And our dog became. I noticed how important her relationship with our dog was after that, as she was really kind of processing and managing that grief. So yeah, pets are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah,
can be.
Just to top that off. So my dad passed away during COVID in November, and then Dexter passed away on Hogmanay that same year, and that was a difficult time. And to be honest, I cried more about Dexter than I did about my dad. But I think that was more of a putting a brave face on my dad's passing rather than anything else. Whereas
grievance. I lost both my parents. My mum from motor neuron disease when she was quite young, and grieving for parents is a very, very difficult thing to do. So maybe pets can give you more opportunity to be honest with yourself about it.
Because we couldn't have a proper funeral for him, and that was difficult. But anyway, Sleoch is my new best pal. He's realised we're talking about him. He's got his head up now. He's keeping an eye on us. This morning.
We talked before. I listened to your podcast. That didn't come up. You've not told me that before. I was not expecting that. That is an extraordinary insight into who you are, Kevin. And I'm just processing. I'm looking at my list, thinking everything else on here feels insignificant now.
Yeah,
But
that's it. Yeah,
but
but there's not there. Yeah,
there's one thing that I remembered as you were talking there a few minutes ago. How have you come through that to where you are? You said things that NHS bit didn't work, this didn't work. You weren't suited to the medication. What did work? What has worked, and how are you
yeah,
doing?
so they sent me to counselling eventually when I was at the very lowest, and I got counselling through the NHS. So I was there every week. My employer was very understanding about that. They were quite happy for me to just disappear for 2 hours every week, to go and talk to someone, work my way through that, and have learned lessons from that about how to cope, from the basic physical breathing exercises to actually, how to cope with things when things are going wrong, how to cope with things when things are going right. There is a bit of don't get carried away about things being good, because then when things are just normal, that seems like a downer. You just have to, be a bit more balanced. And you learned a lot of coping techniques, skills from them. Gradually worked my way up. So at one point, I couldn't leave the house. We've skipped over a bit of it, which I'm less comfortable talking about, but I will. Is that there was a point where I was getting death threats from people in athletics. One of my relationship breakups was to do with while we were both members of the same athletics group, and a lot of people who I'd known for a long time, who I'd been friends with for a long time, decided they would take sides in that breakup, and basically told me never to come again. And if I turned up to a run, there was a good chance I would get pushed in front of a bus. And then there was that escalated to the point where my car was getting routinely vandalized. I had to put security cameras up at my house. I had to get a police emergency button installed in my house.
How long ago was this, Kevin?
So this was part of what drove me into the depression. So this would have been a decade. Yeah, that same sort of time. And on top of that, this is about when my dad gets diagnosed with his cancer. So there was a whole load of things all happening.
There was a lot going on. Yeah. Okay. So let's bring it back to sport and amateur sport, and why we do it. We've had a fantastic insight into the power of pets in terms of therapy and rehabilitation, and coping. What about sport? How are you? I mean, you've got this massive drive to be involved in amateur sports. How is that sitting inside all of these other challenges?
Yeah, so that's also one of my coping mechanisms, because when I was really struggling, I couldn't leave the house. I could get as far as the car, and from the car to the office, because I knew there was a security guard at the office, and I felt safe in the car because I've got at the time I had a big Range Rover with a V8, and anyone wants to come at me in the car, they're going to lose. Anyone who wants to come at me at the office has to get through a stack of security guards. Anyone at the house has to go past a camera and my big red button. But I couldn't go anywhere else. I literally couldn't go to the supermarket. I had to get all my groceries delivered. I had to get someone if I had a doctor's appointment, someone would have to come and take me there. But that also meant I wasn't training. I wasn't getting out of the house. And that is one of my coping mechanisms, apparently, is that any extra adrenaline I build up, I need to burn off. And I can do that through training. But that also, there's a whole load of other hormones in there but they're all basically balanced out by going for a run. And because I wasn't doing that at the time, that they were building up to levels which were affecting my mental processing, and I was not processing things well. And so sport is one of my ways of coping. Is if I go out and do exercise, that will balance off those
apart from the logistical difficulties. Sorry. Apart from the logistical difficulties of doing that at that time, emotionally and mentally and motivational wise, how are you kind of
didn't have any targets, didn't have any goals. Some days my goal was get out of bed, get to work, get home again, and that was it. And So it was a step change from what I was used to. So yeah.
So is there a link between that phase of your life and what we already talked about, the 40-40, the 46-46? Do you think there's a link that these things kind of give you a motivation?
Give me targets, give me goals, give me achievable goals, so I can have successes even if I'm not having successes. So I can run terribly all year, but if I've run my 1,100 miles this year, then that's a success, even if they've all been run at 15-minute pace. Yeah, they won't be. Some of them will be a bit quicker than that, but yeah. Similarly, reading books, some of them are purposefully set to be very achievable. So that watch 35 films. That's not hard. I've got a Cineworld pass. We go to the cinema quite regularly. I'm quite happy to sit in front of a film in an evening. Some of them are really easy. I'm trying to think of what's a simple one. Oh, I can't remember. Some of them are cumulative as well. So things like I've got finished top 10 at Euros in there, but I've also got qualify for 2 internationals next year is in there. And if I finish top 10 in the Euros, then I should get an automatic into next year's. So there's a bit of
you can do 2
stacking in there. So I can,
2. Okay. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I've got six choices to get to. So yeah, there's a bit of that. And it's just ticking those off gives me that positive, positive hormones and the feedback. Going on a number of walks with the dog that are not running adventures, that's on the list. So that makes me take him out and go places that we were not going to, and helping him with his list. Going to 10 different beaches is, I thought that would be an easy one. Turns out there's not 10 beaches around here that are good for him.
And one thing I know about you, and I'm just kind of conscious of time, and there's some incredibly deep stuff coming out here, and I don't want to diminish it by kind of moving on kind of to nonsense. But one thing I just realized that hasn't come out so far, and I know this of you, is that you're very focused on helping other people, whether that's coaching, and you coach the 2 universities in Aberdeen, and you for the multi-sport stuff, and you also when on the trips we've been on, when we've been in the same kind of age group team, you are very obviously helping people, and that part of on the WhatsApp channels, you're giving tips, you're doing videos on how to put those silly tattoos on arms with the water kind of, and people stick them upside down and on the floor, and all sorts of things go wrong. But is helping other people something that just came naturally, or is it something you do on purpose for other reasons?
So I think it's a bit of both. I started coaching when I was 18 in athletics, so I had a lot of time coaching athletes. But originally I went on the coaching courses because I wasn't confident in my own coach. I had a sprints coach, but I didn't. The hurdles coach I had, I wasn't sure that he knew enough for the level I was at. So I basically wanted to go and get the hurdles knowledge on my own, and went on the course and learned it myself. And I think that's a big suggestion I give to most people. When people tell me they're going out to go and pay someone to be a coach, my recommendation is always to actually, first thing to do is take that same amount of money and go on the course yourself. Go and learn what your coach has been taught. Understand what they've been taught, because a lot of it is things that you already know, or things that you can do for yourself. If you need a coach to be your motivator, or to help you plan, or to give you an accountability, great, go and get one. I'm still not convinced you need to pay for that in most cases. Certainly, because I'm from athletics. Athletics is a background of coaches don't get paid until you're an international, till you're coaching Lorem, you're not making money out of it. You're doing it as a volunteer. And triathlon and modern fitness, high rocks and CrossFit and what have you, seems to be very much if you want to coach, you have to pay for one. I prefer the athletics model. I think certainly up to a point, coaching should be free, because the coach is getting something back out of it as well. I learn a lot from, so because I coach the universities, I get a lot of people who've done swimming through school, but I've reached the point where they've had enough, and they don't want to be swimmers anymore. They don't want to be up at 5 o'clock every morning. They don't want that pressure of having to compete at that level. So I've got one who was an ex-Commonwealth squad swimmer, who comes down, but she's like, yeah, I'm coming to swimming, but I don't need to teach her anything about how to swim.
Yeah.
So I'm setting her sessions, but actually, as I'm watching her, I'm realizing what she's doing and going, actually, I don't do that. Yeah. I need to do that, and I need to teach everyone else in the other lanes to do that. So I'm basically picking up from her how to
do you
swim
get a sense
better.
of satisfaction from seeing people improve, from helping people in general, from coaching folks?
Yeah, that's the biggest part of it. Really, is it even though I'm not ticking off on my goal oriented sheet, I'm still getting other people to do their first triathlon, duathlon, aquathon, to go to their first park run. I've got one guy who's been coming a couple of years now, and he keeps telling me his target is to run 27 minutes for 5K, and I keep telling him, no, you should be doing that already. Let's just go and do that. So we went out the first week back at university this year, took him down the park run, and he went out and ran 26:30. And I'm like, there you go, right, new target 25, and that's So it's partly me foisting goals on other people, but it's also that's how I work. I work on targets, so I assume everyone else does.
You're almost getting as much satisfaction from them achieving the goals that you've helped them set as you are from achieving your own goals.
And helping them get there. And watching them do their first aquathlon. So we're going to Dundee next Saturday, and I haven't, the new recruits that I've got this year, we haven't done a transition session yet. So I know they're going to come out of the water. They're going to manage their swim. They're all capable swimmers. They're going to come out of the water, and then they're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes in transition, putting on a t-shirt, putting on their socks, having a towel, having a drink. I'm not going to interfere with that because we haven't had time to get there yet. But I know the ones that I've had for a year or two, they are going to come out and they're going to be as slick as I am.
Straight in the shoes.
And I have, when we go to Glasgow Aquathon in March, we go every year, March, April sort of time.
I raced you there this year. That was one of my last races before I got injured.
Yeah, one of my ex-students goes there. He came from us and he went to Glasgow Uni to do his master's and his PhD. And his big target is always to beat me through transition, because Glasgow Uni has a transition prize for just across transition. Who puts the fastest time through transition? And he doesn't mind that he's a good swimmer, but he's not as good as me. He's a good runner, but he's not as good as me. But his target at every Glasgow Uni Aquathon is to beat me through transition and to get that prize for the fastest transition.
Well, now I know that I'm going to join that game if I can get back to be in the Glasgow.
And having taught him to do transition, it's I've basically done myself out of a prize, but it's a success for me because his transitions are now so fantastic that
you got to be slightly careful, because the first bit of that is running out from inside a pool, and running in the pool area is a bit of an.
So the time doesn't start till you cross the mat, so it's outside the door, so you're okay with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, time is absolutely flying, as I expected it would. You're I mean, apart from the unexpected kind of really serious stuff you've been talking about, there's so many other kind of things that are worth
that we haven't got to.
But I want to try to bring it to a bit of a wrap with something quite a lot lighter. I hope, considering what else we've been talking about here. But what is it with you and Garmin watches? I picked this up from the other podcast. You seem to have a love-hate relationship with Garmin watches. Why don't we kind of finish on that?
So I started with Garmin back when it was the 203, 202. So their first original one was the length of your forearm. That was the 100 series. The next one was the 200 series. It was the first one that was a watch. It was a big watch, but it was a watch. So that's the first one I had. It lasted 2 or 3 years. So when it broke, I went to the 310, or maybe a 303 first, then a 310. Eventually, that broke. I think I crashed the bike on that one and smashed the screen. So eventually I got to a 735 just at the start of COVID. So literally got it delivered. I'd started work at BP 2 weeks before COVID, had the watch delivered, got it. It lasted about 8 weeks and then broke because it got water in it. So I sent that back, got it replaced by Garmin, and they were quite happy the first time. Next one lasted about 3 months, broke again, sent it back. And then when I got to number 3, they started arguing about, yeah, you're mistreating the watch. And I'm like, no, I'm not mistreating the watch. It's meant to be a triathlon watch. I should be able to use it for swimming. I'm not doing anything with it that anyone else is doing. Why do they keep breaking? And while I was on that chat, the Garmin specialist admitted that it wasn't waterproof.
Wow. Okay.
And I've got that on chat in writing that it's not waterproof to IP67. Yeah, IP67 specifically says you can press the buttons underwater and it will still work. And I have a Garmin support engineer saying that it's not waterproof to that level. So basically, they then broke the 735 broke on me every 6 months, almost like clockwork from then. And I basically kept sending them back, and they're like, "No, you can't have a new one." And I'm like, "I can. You're advertising them as waterproof, and they're not. I have it in writing from your engineer," and they would just replace them. So I went through 7 of them in just over 3 years. And eventually they got to the point where they said, no, enough. We'll just give you the next one up. So I've now got, actually it's one down, but it is genuinely waterproof this time.
Right, this one.
So I now have the 235,
right,
which has, and because they're upgrading all the time, it now has all of the tools and toys that the 735 had anyway. So.
Yeah. So you're okay with Garmin now. It's not like you've been falling out with them altogether. You're not doing Strava. You're not doing a Strava on them and suing them or anything.
No. So yeah,
okay. Kevin, we're gonna have to wrap, but I want to. I mean, I think it's fair, and if anyone has listened to this through, they'll understand why it was important. I think for this to roll, and now this is probably going to be the longest podcast I've done in this series so far, and that's fine. But I want to say something.
Pick anything off your list. Yeah, I'm happy to come back in future again.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say something quite important before we finish, and that's that. And I want people to hear me saying this to you on this, because and we'll see what happens as a result of this. But you've touched on some pretty serious subjects there. And I really think that, and you said that there was one but that you were reluctant to talk about, but you were going to. So I'm going to give you the chance to reflect on that before this gets published. So if you are uncomfortable about anything you've said on this, there will be time for you to let me know, and we'll cut that out. And if need be, I'll even cut this a little bit out at the end. But if it stays as it has run, I want people to know that I've given you that chance to reflect, and that it didn't just get punched straight out immediately after this, because you've hit some really heavy things there, and I think it's very brave of you to do that. So thank you very much. But I think for a lot of people listening, there's some serious things in there to be thinking about, but I think for people who are in similar kinds of places, hopefully that'll be really empowering and very motivating for them to see that if whatever their current treatment is and maybe not working, like you, there are other ways, and you've found your way through those challenges in the end.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add in there as well that if anyone is having similar problems, if they want someone to talk to, I'm quite happy to talk about my experiences. I'm quite happy to give them help, direct them towards other people that might help. Other institutions that might help. If anyone is struggling, and it doesn't have to be me, your best solution is always to tell someone, and the more you talk about it, generally the better it gets. So
wow, thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate where you've gone with this, which I wasn't expecting, and we've touched on a lot of things that I was really wanting to.
It's not where I thought we'd go either, to be honest.
No. Okay. Well, I think that's really interesting. I want to finish this before the hour's up, so we've got less than a minute now to just say that I'm finding it more and more interesting as I do more and more of these, that stories are coming out that people weren't necessarily expecting to bring into it. So there's something about what goes on behind the headline stories that we hear about more often. So I really appreciate you kind of bringing some of that forward, and wow, a lot to kind of for me even to think about. And I can't wait to see you again. Can't wait to get racing again myself. If maybe the March the race in Glasgow where I take you on in that transition, because you overtook me in the run this year. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on in future. But thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. See you soon.
See you soon. All the best, Kevin. Cheers. Bye-bye.